Earlier, you mentioned goat and cow you would consume. When it comes to cow, are you specific about the A1 versus A2 piece?
Yeah, I do think now some people it's very important. Like A1, they just can't do A2. It's the kind of casein, and if people have issues with milking, it can be for a few reasons, but casein is one of the common culprits, and so they can do A2 casein. I just think it's probably just better overall for most people that are doing milk, even if they can do A1, A2 is a little bit better. So goat and the cow milk are both A2 raw.
Okay, raw. So how important is that piece for people, yourself and for others that you're, educating?
When you say important, it depends on what metrics you are gauging importance on. Like what importance as far as like gaining weight and building muscle, less so than if it's like, hey, the health or being able to tolerate dairy. There's some people that like just cannot tolerate pasteurized dairy, but if it's raw, because of the bacteria and enzymes help convert the lactase enzyme, which is going to digest the lactose, the milk sugar that a lot of people have issues with. So like I say, milk can cause issues for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. Lactose, casein, the whey proteins. The raw is going to be the way to mitigate most of those issues, whereas pasteurized is going to, it's going to destroy a lot of all the enzymes basically. Research shows it'll decrease the nutrition content, like the vitamins and minerals that you can potentially be getting in the raw milk. So yeah, I prefer raw.
And why that's really important is because in the US, you can go to the health food store and you can get organic, grass fed milks. You can get different kinds of animals. There's so much nuance there, A1 versus A2. But from what I've seen, everything's pasteurized. So, why it's important to hone in on this is it worth somebody going to find a farmer to get raw? How big of a piece is that if somebody's going to consume dairy?
I think it's important. One of the to kind of go. One of the reasons is it's almost impossible to buy commercial milk that's not fortified with vitamin A, which we just talked about, and vitamin D. And we just talked about like I was like I don't want to get any more vitamin A than I was getting, and then I look at the store because like getting raw milk is super inconvenient. I'm not gonna lie. Some people might have like a farmer next door that they can get it to, but in general, it's very inconvenient. And it's because it's like something you got to go get it. Like unlike a cow, which I can store in a deep freezer, you got to go to this farm every 2 weeks, basically. It's very, and you can freeze milk, but I think a lot that could potentially, actually mess with some of the enzymes and stuff like that as well. So it's very inconvenient. So I've tried to look at the store. Very like, oh, what are my best options here? And there's a couple okay options, but almost everything is pasteurized in the United States. Maybe there's some laws coming out where stores are going to be able to start carrying raw milk, but here it's not in St. Louis, Missouri. I know that for sure. But yeah, so it's pasteurized, it's fortified with vitamin A, vitamin D. We just talked about that, and I'm like, okay, so they're fortifying the milk with vitamin A and vitamin D, but once again, people are not getting vitamin K2, and then you're fortifying with the other two vitamins, which may even increase the need for more of that vitamin. So yeah, I think raw is important. Let me just take one quick story because I had some buddies over last week for dinner, and all we have is like a pile of patties, and they're not carnivore or anything like that. They try and be healthy, but like more of your just standard normal person. But they know they're coming here. We're just eating patties. But my one friend drinks 4 gallons of milk a week, pasteurized skim milk, and he's done it for 20 years, and he's exceedingly healthy. Like I'm just like, so I want to say it's going to kill you because he's done it for 20 years, and that's a single anecdote, but it's just an interesting aside.
What about fermented dairy?
Fermented dairy tends
Something
to be
you can
better.
get at the
Yeah.
health food store, yogurt, kefir, or actually taking that raw milk that you're getting from the farm and fermenting it.
So I don't ever ferment it myself, but at the farm that I'll buy for, they'll ferment some, make some kefir. It's great. I don't think it's necessary for health goals, but potentially for people that have some gut issues, it can be, your probiotic potentially helpful there. But yeah, kefir is just fermenting. It's another way to try and eliminate some of the potentially problematic things for people that can't tolerate dairy. Although I'll say, like, if you can't tolerate raw milk, I just don't think you should be doing much dairy outside of maybe some butter or cream, where like most of the other compounds besides the dairy fat are eliminated. And so, to me, it goes back to kind of the ancestral perspective, where lactase persistence, the enzyme that digests lactose, um, really propagated rapidly in evolutionary timescales among European populations. It, to me, just signals how critical dairy was, um, after the during this agricultural revolution period. Like it wouldn't have done that unless it was a substantial survival advantage. And so, for those people that do have lactase persistence, it's a good sign that your ancestors for the last 10,000 years may have relied heavily on dairy. So you are more predisposed to being able to consume dairy, and maybe even you should. There's potentially an argument there that you should eat some dairy. But for those that are not tolerant, like most Asian population is lactose intolerant, they don't have this lactase persistence. Instead of fermenting dairy, or trying to find the right A2 raw brand, and I'm just like, you probably just shouldn't consume it.
If you enjoyed that clip, you're going to want to head over here and catch a full episode. I'll see you over there.
If we take those 300,000 years, we put them on a 24-hour clock. The first 23 hours, we don't see cavities in the fossil record. We don't see periodontal disease in the fossil record. We don't see malocclusion in the fossil record. We don't really see abscesses in the fossil record. But something happens 1 hour.